Alright guys, got another sweet video for you. Today we're going to do the valve adjustment on the 2014 CRF250 and should be pretty straightforward. The general manual book that they give with the bike has the instructions. Here's a beautiful Ducati. She has about 1,000 miles on the new valve adjustment that we did. Check out that video. So we'll go ahead and get started. Pretty straightforward. We're going to remove our seat. We're going to move our fairing shrouds, remove our gas tank. Our goal is to get to the head here. You need the very basic tools. So let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, in order to move the gas tank, you have a cable here that's attached to a hook. You can just unhook it, it comes right off. And then you want to unhook your fuel line, which is this bad boy here. You just got to remove the cover. Comes right off, a little plastic cover. And then there's a connector here that you just remove. You squeeze, and then you can pull this guy out. You just disconnect, the quick disconnect. The manual says to remove it here. I find it easier to remove there. And you have your clip, a little clip for the power. You remove it off the frame and then do a quick disconnect as well. So the first thing we're going to do now, we're going to get to our valves. Remove your spark plug cap. Just set it off to the side. Going to remove our breather here and pull that out. There we go. Push that away, and then we'll go ahead and take off our cover screws. Pops right out. It's pretty clean in there. All these are reusable seals. Now we can see our actual head in our valves. You can see your exhaust valves are right here, and the distance we're going to measure is in between this rocker arm and the top of the shim. And the intake valves are underneath the cams. You can't really see them here, but we're going to measure underneath the bottom of the cam and the top of the shims. First, before we do that, we need to put the engine at top dead center, which is TDC, and there's a lot of things you can do to double check that, and we'll go ahead and walk through it. First thing we're going to do is remove our spark plug so we can easily move the piston up and down. You're going to remove this cover here, and I'll show you what's inside. So once you remove your spark plug and this cover here, you'll see a little dot on that gear, and then you'll see a little tab sticking out of the frame here. You want that dot to line up with the tab. This is an indication that you're at TDC. You only rotate the gear clockwise. You rotate it like this. Your Allen. Make sure your tool's clean. Mine is kind of dirty. And the way to determine that you're at TDC should be at TDC is that your exhaust rocker arm, which are these bad boys, should be loosey-goosey. You can see they move up and down, which means they are not pressing on the valve. Another indication, you can see your timing chain and your timing gear. There's a line, groove cut into the gear. That should be horizontal with the top of this head. That's another indication that you're at TDC. TDC is top dead center, which means you're on your compression stroke. This is where the fuel's already in your piston, and your piston's coming up in compression, and all your valves are closed. So you check your valves are closed by feeling your rockers, and you look at your intake valves. You can see the cams. These are two cams. These push down on the valves to open them for the intake stroke. You can see how the lobes are pushed up, which means they are not pressing on the valves, which is another indication you're at TDC. You can only take your valve measurement when you're at TDC, so that's why this is important. Alright, now that our engine is at TDC, we'll go ahead and measure our valve clearance. We'll start with the hardest valve, which is the intake valves. The reason why they're hard is they're just kind of hard to get to. I recommend getting these angled I recommend getting the angled feeler gauges. It'll help you reach inside. You actually need to measure underneath the cam and on top of the valve lifters, also known as the shims. See a little picture here. This is your cam, the side profile. Number 1 is your feeler gauge, and this is where your shims are. There's actually a cover on this one. You measure right in between, and you can see even in the picture they show an angled one. Your tolerance on this is 0.005 inches, plus or minus 0.001. So I went ahead and laid out my feeler gauges. They don't make an angled 0.004. I'm aiming for 0.005, so we'll go ahead and start with this one, and then we'll make our way around. Okay, we'll go ahead and measure our intake valves. I'm going to start with 0.005. Go ahead, and this is our cam here. You have 2 of them. You're going to slide it underneath the cam, and then somehow on top, and it should provide a nice resistance. This one goes in pretty good. Yeah, so this is 0.005, and it does fit in kind of loose, so I'm going to go up one size. 0.006 should not fit. If this is actually 0.005, 0.006 should not fit. So we'll go ahead and try that right now. Go ahead and slide in 0.006. And again, this should not fit. Remember, you don't shove it in there. It's just kind of hard to get to. I'm not shoving, but this one doesn't seem to fit, which is good, which means we're in spec for this one. Let me take another measurement. You want to do this several times. Yeah, this one does not fit, so good news on that one. Yep, 0.006 does not fit on the right intake valve. I'll go ahead and write that down. We'll go ahead and move to the left intake valve, and we're going to start with 0.005. This one's giving me some struggle, so I'm going to try it on this side. Whichever side you think is best. Again, it's pretty difficult to reach in here, but they should slide in pretty easily. This one actually is having trouble sliding in. Like I said, it's slight bit of resistance. This one is not going in. This is 0.005. I'm going to move down to 0.004. Make sure you wipe your feeler gauges. I don't have an angle feeler gauge here, so you got to make sure you're inserting it correctly or you get the wrong reading. This seems to slide in pretty good. Remember, 0.004 is still within spec. Slide it in there. You can see it on the other side. Got all these things in the way. But you want to get it in there straight and then move it in and out and feel a tiny bit of resistance. That feels really good. 0.004. I'm going to call this one 0.004. Alright, now it's time to measure the exhaust valves. And the tolerance on this is 0.011 plus or minus 0.001. So this is 0.011. This is where I'm going to start. This is probably the easiest one to measure. And you can clearly see your shim and then your rocker arm, which is this guy here. You're going to measure in between that. So we'll go ahead and slide it in, and it doesn't fit. This one is super easy to measure accurately. And you see it doesn't fit. So I'm going to move down 0.001. Which is 0.01. Now, let's go ahead and feel it. This one does not fit. It does not fit. And this was the bottom end of our acceptable tolerance. So I'm going to go ahead and measure what we have here. This one is going to be out of spec. So I'm going to figure out what it is. So I have 0.009. We need to determine what our clearance is. And holy crap, this one doesn't fit either. Doesn't fit. So this one is pretty darn out of spec. We're going to go down another thousandths of an inch, 0.008. It looked like it wanted to. It is getting a little too tight. We're going to have to go down another size. It should go all the way through. We're now at 0.007. And this one fits. You kind of feel the resistance. The resistance is similar to putting your feeler gauge inside of a large textbook. You should feel that slight bit of friction. You shouldn't be forcing it, and you can see how easily it slips in. It goes all the way in, and you can kind of move it. Unfortunately, this one is out by about 0.003 of an inch, which is quite a bit, about twice as far out of tolerance. So this one needs to be adjusted. I will call this one 0.007. Alright, we'll move to the right one now. Go ahead and start at 0.011. I'm going to attack it from this side. This one does not fit. I'm going to go down one. 0.010. Let's see if this guy fits. Bummer. Out of spec. Gonna go down one. 0.009. Very much does not fit. Okay. 0.008. Where are we gonna be at? Okay, this one fits. Thank goodness. It's still out of spec, so both of the exhaust valve shims need to be adjusted and changed out. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so both of my exhaust shims are out of specification. Go ahead, I wrote it down here. 0.007, 0.008. They're supposed to be 0.011. I'm gonna have to replace those two. My intake, my left one is 0.004, which is still within spec, and my right one is exactly on the money at 0.005. So we got to remove our cam. First thing you're going to do is remove your condenser bolts here, and then you're going to remove your timing belt tensioner. You remove this whole assembly in order to free our cams. So before you move your cams, get a little paint pen and mark, the tooth in the chain, Do it in 2 points in case you wipe it off. And the whole point is, when it's time to install this cam back in, you get the chain exactly where it was before. Alright, once our belt tensioner, our chain tensioner is removed, we're going to go ahead and remove our cam rings, which are these guys here. There's 4 bolts, 10 millimeters. You're going to unscrew it in a crisscross pattern. Crisscross means this, crissy-cross. And you want to do that in 2 or 3 steps. They're of different length. The shorter one goes in the rear, longer one goes in the front. Okay guys, I need you to pay attention to this. Don't make a mistake that I almost made. There is a retaining ring that sits inside of your cam journal. That's what I'm going to call it. It falls out. It looks like this. It's on both of them. Don't drop this shit. There you go. These ones are marked. It says left. There's a bearing here that we can move. You move this bearing over, this one, to the left. Hope you can see this. And then we'll go ahead and hold our cam and we'll slip our chain off by tilting our cam to the left. Bada bing, bada boom. Cam's off. You can see I'm still holding onto my chain because if I drop it, there goes your chain. So we'll go ahead and put a screwdriver here, nice and long one. Set the chain on it, it's not going anywhere. And you can notice all the holes everywhere that goes straight to the bottom end. I don't really feel like getting anything from down there, so get some shop towels and shove them in here. And hopefully your slippery fingers, if you do drop something, it doesn't go anywhere. This goes right here. And I forgot to do this earlier, but go ahead and cover up your spark plug hole for the same exact reason. Alright. And you just lift your exhaust rocker up and you can get a little magnet. Pull your shim out of there. This is what the shim looks like. It's kind of like a tiny battery. I don't see any markings on it, but you need to remember, you need to mark which one you took this off. So take it off one at a time. This is my left exhaust. I need to make sure I remember it's my left exhaust. Just like the left one, we remove our right one with a magnet. Oh, there we go. Alright guys, we are at our final step. Man, this was so much easier than my Ducati. It's incredible. So we have a vernier caliper right here. This one's up to accuracy of 0.001, which is what we want. We're going to go ahead and measure the thickness of our shims that we just removed. I'm going to clean these guys off. This is my left one. Go ahead and measure this guy. Shouldn't be biting down too hard. I like to open it up and close it back down until I get the same number. This is what I measured for the clearance, and this number here, 0.0955 in inches, is my shim size. 0.0955. One off. Make sure our caliper is zeroed out. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and measure this several times. And it might be the exact same shim. Okay. Very, very close. Size of shim is 0.095. Yeah. They're the same shim, but just one shim wore out more than the other. Now we'll do our calculation for our new shim size. And this one is pretty straightforward. Gonna go ahead and open your parentheses. You're gonna put in your recorded valve clearance. We'll start on this left one. And this is my recorded, this is what I measured with my feeler gauge. Recorded valve clearance. It's going to be 0.007. You see that there? I'm going to go ahead and subtract my specified valve clearance. And this is what Honda specifies. So for the exhaust, I'm going to go ahead and look it in the book. The exhaust specified is 0.011. We're going to go ahead and close the parentheses. And we're going to add our actual shim size, what this shim size actually is, which is 0.0955. We go ahead and equals, our new shim size will be 0.0915. 0.0915. This is going to be our new shim that we're going to buy to get us at exactly 0.011. So we're almost done. It's almost time to buy new shims. First thing I forgot to mention was you need to convert your inches into millimeters because your shims come in millimeters. I like to measure in inches, just easier, I guess, numbers to understand. But anyways, this was our calculation we just did, 0.0915. That is in inches. In order to convert to millimeters, you are simply just going to multiply by 25.4. Equals. So we'll go ahead and do equal sign. In millimeters, our new shim size is 324 millimeters. There it is, the big number. You need to show up to 1/1000th of a millimeter because the Honda makes their shims in intervals of 0.025. So you want to make sure you have 3 decimal places after that. You don't need to round. We're not going to round here. So my calculations was 2.3241. I'm going to write down 2.324. I'm going to find the closest shim size to that. I think the closest shim size is going to be 2.325. And that should work. Alright guys, so I just picked up my new shims from the local Honda dealer. And thank goodness, miraculously, they had the right sizes. You need to make sure you bring a micrometer or measure your shims over there because these readings don't mean shit really. It's like an estimate, I'm assuming. I don't know what it is, but this says 2.35. That's what that value should be, right? I measure it, it's 2.32, right? So I don't know what that number means, but from the manual it looks like it's supposed to be 2.35. Yeah, but it's not. This one says 2.38. From the manual, that means it's 2.375, right? It's an abbreviation for another number, which is stupid, but I measure 2.35, right? I'm going to convert that to inches. 0.0925. That's exactly what I need. So they may say, "Oh, we don't have your shim size." Get your vernier caliper and measure your shims before you get disappointed and have to order stuff. But bada bing, bada boom. Time to install the shims. All right, guys. So I showed you how to replace the shims for the exhaust, which are super easy. The intake is the same way, except you just have a cover. This is your little cover, and right underneath it is your shim, and it's the same shim that goes into your exhaust. Remove that shim with the same tool, and bada bing, bada boom. Make sure you know which one's on the right side, which side's on the left side. It's the same thing. Very simple. You're supposed to do this every 15 hours. If you ride a lot, you'll be a pro in no time. Alright, now it's time to install our cams. This is our little bearing that we slide in and out. This guy here. You slide it to the left to remove it. We're going to do the same thing to put it back on. It goes like this. There are markings, right? There's a little line here. That needs to be in line with the head. I mentioned that before. I'm going to go ahead and drop this bad boy in. First, you got to grab your chain. Be careful when you're moving around your chain. Don't drop it. Don't rotate it. You'll move your piston and you'll have to reset. You got to make sure you're at TDC. Don't spin your motor at all when you're doing this, and then you don't have to worry about it. You just set it once. Go ahead and drop our cam in. not literally. And we will go ahead and put our chain on. There we go. And we're in place. Put your bearing back where it's supposed to be. But you push your bearings inwards and they stop. And I'm assuming that's where it's supposed to go. Alright, now the cam's installed, your chain's in place, you line up your marks that you made previously. You see that line that I pointed out before that's on the gear? That line is horizontal with the head. This is the head. This line should be perfectly parallel. Should be perfectly parallel with that line. So you can kind of see it's perfectly in line with that line. That's how you know it's lined up. That's how you know your cam is lined up correctly. Alright, so we're just going to add some oil to the tops of our cams and our bearings. Just so initial startup, it has oil. And add some oil to the back of our cam holder. Remember that retaining ring is loosey-goosey and it's very easy to drop in. So be very careful when putting this on. R stands for right side. This arrow points to the back of the bike, I'm assuming. And that little retainer is going to go inside of the bearing groove. I like to squeeze my bearings in so they're fully on the cam. We're going to go ahead and set this in. Remember, be very careful. This is the hole of doom. If you drop your retainer in there, you're pretty screwed. So we're going to set this in. I'm going to visualize and make sure that that retainer sits on that bearing. Now you're going to add oil to the threads. To the threads of your screws as well to the mating surface. Remember, the long screws go up front. Short ones go in the back. Go ahead and start the screwing in. Try to screw them in easily, and then we're going to torque them down in a crisscross pattern. So I'll go ahead and seat these. These only get torqued to 12 foot-pounds, so I'm going to seat these very lightly. Okay. Alright, now it's time to torque down these bolts. It's 12 foot-pounds. You want to do it in crisscross pattern in 2 to 3 steps, 2-3 stages. So I'm going to do half turn, half turn, doesn't matter, half turn, half turn. That's one stage. Another half turn. Another half turn. Continue doing half turns or quarter turns, whatever this is. Now, once we tightened our cams in, we're going to go ahead and install our chain tensioner and our chain tensioner bolt. There's no spec for this. Just install it and hand tighten it. Then we're going to put our condenser back, and then we'll spin the engine over a few times and then put it back at TDC and take new measurements. So just a side note, when you install the tensioner, if you don't have the tensioning tool, you can do this without the tensioning tool. For this installation, we had this thing fully removed. When it's removed, that spring automatically pushes out the plunger at maximum tension. You don't just want to reinstall it just like that, because then you're going to put too much force on your cams, on your cam tensioning chain, and you're going to get a really loud whining noise. A lot of people make this mistake, and you're putting too much tension. This is an automatic cam chain tensioner, and it adjusts automatically as the chain loses slack. It automatically pushes out. It's just a spring plunger. So what you need to do, you this will be removed, and then this will be removed as well, this screw. You're going to get a flathead screwdriver. I don't have one small enough, so I use this watermelon knife. And you just turn the flathead to the right, clockwise, and then you'll see that the plunger starts to get sucked in. And this removes the tension off of the cam chain. So what I did is, this was off. I turned it all the way to the right until you couldn't anymore. There was no tension on the cam tensioner. I then put it in, and I put the screw in all the way down, and I slowly released this tool, and then the plunger slowly pressed on it, and it automatically set where it's supposed to be. I put in my second screw. There's no torque setting, so just hand tight, and you put in this cap, this last screw, and that's it. Alright, so rotate your motor a few times with the 8mm Allen on the side. Make sure nothing's binding, everything sounds good, and then put everything back to TDC. Line up that dot with the groove in the hole like I showed you before, and we're going to go ahead and take measurements again. So you're going to go ahead and install your spark plug. If you're reusing the same spark plug, once it seats by hand, you turn it 1/8 of an inch or 1/8 of a turn, and you're good. If it's a new spark plug, once it seats by hand, you turn it a whole half turn, you turn it back, you seat it again, and turn it an 1/8 turn. You got to make sure you do that correctly, or you're not going to have a correctly seated spark plug. It may come loose. And then for your cover, the right side of the bike, engine oil on the seal, grease on the threads. You torque this down to 11 foot-pounds. Alright, now it's time to install the cylinder head. Make sure your seals are faced up. There's a letter that says up. We didn't remove those, so it's not a big deal. You need to apply oil to your spark plug hole packing. We're just going to put in engine oil, just like that. And all you got to do is drop this bad boy down. We're going to go ahead and put our bolts in. Those get torqued down. These get torqued down to 7 foot-pounds. Alright guys, so we're just on the final steps. Connect your breather tube, put your spark plug cap back in, make sure you screwed in your condenser, and then we're going to put in our gas tank, our seat. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.